from the third world. Thanks to 5G, we do not have cancer, but we do have internet. This is the Comic Watchers Show, episode number 94. I'm your host, Matt. With me is Mike Eakins, sometimes known as Scoop Johnson, sometimes known as Ross Bullies Me. Let's do this, man. So we're short of Nick this week.
We are, yes.
It's his anniversary, so I think we'll give him a pass. He's being a responsible husband, not a responsible nerd, but we'll give him a pass. But Nick and Janae, happy anniversary. Wish you were here, but my God, go do married people stuff.
Yeah.
So
sure.
This week, big episode. We're going into Boom Studios' 7 Secrets this week from Tom Taylor, and we kind of struggled with what to do for a second book this week, and then the bombs dropped over at DC this week, and we can't just not devote some substantial time to that. So we're going to get into some heavy territory this week, trigger warning, and so it's just me and Mike. We may or may not be drinking. I don't know. I'm just kidding. One of us might be. I don't know. But we got a lot of stuff to talk about. So let's get into the news with Scoop Johnson, baby.
For sure. We're going to start out with Image and everyone's favorite, creative duo, Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. Yeah, right. Like who's heard of those guys? Reckless, they're going to make history. This is going to be the first original graphic novel series that is coming out in December. That's going to be huge. I mean,
So they're doing this trilogy of OGNs instead of releasing it in a monthly format,
right?
And should be epic. Yeah. I don't know why it wouldn't be. It's set in the 80s. I'm sure there will be lots of Miami Vice-esque mountains of cocaine and pastels and Don Johnson and, little grit, little glamour. But it's Brubaker and Phillips. You can't go wrong.
No, you really can't. Even the cover has the guy with the mirrored sunglasses, handlebar mustache. Yeah, I mean, just
talking about.
Yeah, tons of booger sugar, probably all in the mustache. So, yeah. But anyway.
I've never heard that, and I love it.
Yeah, it's not copyrighted. Write that down. Use that for next show. It's fine. But yeah, Brubaker, Phillips, definitely. That's coming out in December. Moving on to Marvel, we do have an exclusive on the website. We're going to talk about that touch on that really quick. Conan: The Battle for Serpent Crown 4 of 5, big exclusive. And check that out. We are going to touch on really quick. Enter the Phoenix. The Jason Aaron I know exactly. Yeah.
More Phoenix.
More of your cosmic chaos bringer.
Yay.
Right. So alongside of that big Avenger saga, you're going to see some really cool variants of the Black Panther, Captain America, Doctor Doom, Immortal Hulk, Fantastic Four. The whole list is on the website. It's pretty much what is on the shelves right now for Marvel is going to get the variant covers, which are they're just all gorgeous. So it's going to be one of those things where if you're a kind of like a Phoenix X-Men fan, you may scoop those up just for the collection. Or obviously, if you're reading Fantastic Four, who's not reading Immortal Hulk, you're going to continue to pick up these books regardless. Moving on to DC, happier DC news. Punchline is getting her own 48-page one-shot in November. We're going to have James Tinney and Sam Johns, Merka and Dolfo on this book.
Is this her DC debut?
I'm sorry?
Is this Merka and Dolfo's DC debut?
No, she did some stuff, and I don't have it in front of me real quick, but she did some stuff earlier for DC. Let me see if I can pull that up really quick.
Yeah. While you're doing that, just Merka and Dolfo, she's doing a series over at Image right now called Mercy.
Yes.
Fantastic work. She's an amazing talent. You're going to hear a lot more of this name in the future.
And also she has, and I can't remember what company it's from, but she has another title called Unsacred, which mature readers. It's a mature readers book, which is pretty rad. I picked up a few issues from my shop.
I've seen that. Is it from Scout or maybe Action Lab? It's
might
one
be.
of those. It's one of those smaller publishers.
Yeah, I don't think it's Scout. I don't. Matter of fact, I want to say I'm 100% sure it's not from Scout. It could be Action Lab. Let's see. Her DC work. She did some backup stuff. She did some variants. She did some Bombshell. She did a lot of the Bombshell stuff. She did some Catwoman.
Okay.
Yeah.
But hey, she's got chops. She can write and draw.
Yeah.
And if you're not reading Mercy, get on it because it's an epic book.
Yeah, Mercy is
very unique. Like there's a ton of horror books out there right now, right? Dime a dozen.
Yeah.
Mercy really stands unique among them, both in terms of execution and just content. I really haven't read anything quite like it before. So
no, it's definitely one of my it's definitely one of my books of the year, if you will.
Yeah.
Issue 4 came out and it was the goriest yet of the. I mean, it was just Mercy. I could talk. We could probably do a whole show about Mercy, and it's marvelous stuff. So anyway, back to Punchline. Like I said, we got Tinian, we got Johns, we got Dolfo. Definitely check that out. And Lobo, or I say if you want to get lobotomized. I stole that from there you go. So the main man is getting his own book, Death Metal Infinite Hours Extreme #1. And this is another
whatever that word salad means.
There is so many consonants what I'm reading off of right now. But no, so Frank Thierry, Becky Cloonan, others, art by Dale Inglesham and others. We have
Inglesham, really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so this looks pretty good. There's a 1-in-25 card stock by Kyle Hotz.
There's another one shot they announced this week, and I'm drawing a blank on the name of it. But it's got Patton Oswalt doing some writing in it. So I don't know exactly what extent it is, but if Patton Oswalt's attached to it, it'll be worth buying.
No, yeah, definitely. It's kind of like when Posen did Deadpool.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. Not great, but it was still a decent.
He doesn't love Posen.
Yeah. So that is going to have, like I said, Cloonan. That's coming out on November 10th. That looks really, really good. Keeping on with DC and keeping on with their metal theme, which I think is really cool because I'm a huge Doom metal guy. Justice League Doom Metal is coming out, and that is going to be starting with Justice League 53. September 15th right now is the release date. Obviously, I don't know how set in stone that is. That could shift left or right. But for right now, it's September 15th. And that is going to cover a first appearance of the Omega Knight, which is Frankenstein's monster version of I'm sorry, I read that backwards. Where is my notes? Oh my God. It's the first appearance of the Omega Knight. It's a Frankenstein's monster version of the Omega Titans. Right. And so from Justice League No Justice from that side.
Yeah, we're remembering that series happened.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's going to happen, and that's going to go. Those covers are on the site as well.
And it's a 5-parter. It's written by Josh Williamson because DC hasn't seemed to be able to figure out who's going to be their permanent Justice League of America writer since Snyder finished. So he's subbing in right as his Flash run ends, which is kind of cool timing for him. Speaking of Flash and Death Metal, the Josh Williamson's final issue of Flash ships in September. It's number, I want to say 761, but it's actually his 100th issue on Flash. So he will officially have the longest run on a Flash title by the time he's done. Williamson catches flack, and some of it's justified, some of it's not. His run has been up and down, but when it hits, it really, really hits. And I have to give him all the credit in the world for being the last man standing as writer on the same book from Rebirth in 2016.
No one, I mean,
nobody else. Not Rucka, not Snyder, not anybody else. Be it through personal choice or editorial shifting around of creative teams to accommodate Bendis on Superman. Look, I love Bendis Superman, but I am still sore about that because, my God, Tomasi and Jurgens were killing it. But I digress. And he's Williamson at, like, I think it's the same week his last issue of Flash ships. His death metal, speed metal one shot comes out, and it's supposed to act as a coda to his Flash run. Excuse me. Features Wally West himself running around with the Mobius power and Dr. Manhattan power and all that good stuff. So good time to be a Flash fan, bottom line.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And we are going to round out the news just with something that's on the website as well. The Inkwell Awards, the 2020 Inkwell Awards, for your favorite inkers. That whole list is announced. And I think that's one of those unsung hero type of artistries, if you will, of the book. I don't think, I think a lot of people get hung up in by rights, and I totally get it. The sexiness lies with the writers and the artists and stuff like that. And so you get your letters, you get your inkers and stuff that maybe aren't getting as their due diligence, their due justice. So check out that that list.
We all remember the You're a Tracer scene from Chasing Amy.
Sure. Yeah.
I think for 23 years it's been impossible for inkers to escape that perception. Thank you, Kevin Smith. Right. But inkers make or break the look of a book. Sure. They really do. Yep. And there's actually, I don't know if you've noticed this, there's been a trend in probably the last 4 or 5 years of pencilers inking their own work more and more, I've noticed. Not sure if that's a harbinger of the quote unquote death of the inker themselves. I hope it's not. Right. Because, we need our inkers, man. Yeah. So, you got anything else for regular news before we get into doom and gloom news?
Yeah, regular news, that's about it. I think we're ready to head into that tunnel of wanness.
Yeah. So, we're gonna wallow in the gutters a little bit, and we're gonna get into Crisis at DC Comics this week. Major goings on. AT&T fired 20% of the staff at DC. That included Bob Harris, the editor-in-chief. That included shuttering the entire DC Collectibles division, which has existed for 22 years.
First of its kind, almost, pretty much.
And I will say that this was part of a broader swath of layoffs at AT&T Time Warner, or I guess just Warner. So it wasn't just aimed at DC, but it sent shockwaves. Yeah. And we're still we're going to be sifting through the wreckage for a cool minute. And Jim, I mean, Mike, what are your first thoughts on all this?
I think when I first, because it was on Twitter, and then I can't remember what it was, a creator that first tweeted something about DC, and my heart goes out to everyone at DC, and I think I posted something in Slack, what's going on type deal. And then obviously, through the Twitterverse, you started seeing all this information trickle down, and you're Googling everything to see what's really going on. And it's crazy because obviously it's a broader spectrum. They're cutting, and don't want to use the term dead weight, but maybe that's a wrong term to use, but maybe trimming the fat, maybe that's a better way to do it, because the debt is huge. And so they're probably looking at all facets of where they can start trimming stuff. Yeah. And unfortunately, big business doesn't see the comic book side of the business. They're just seeing the shirts and the logos you can put on a mug.
IPs.
Yeah, right. So they could give, pardon my French, they could give a rat's ass about how many Detective Comics Batman's been in, and what's going on with the Joker and all that stuff. So they're looking to kind of shore in their bottom line. Now, with all these editors getting laid off, it's one of those things where it's like, well, how do you take this? You sit here and it's part of that broader spectrum, but like you said, DC Collectibles is no more. They were one of the first entities to come out and start producing their own toy line.
Yeah. Yeah.
McFarlane's a little different because he has licenses, just for whatever he wants to make, but DC Collectibles they're producing their own stuff, and it's really high quality stuff, and there's really so many different levels of that stuff. But now all the stuff is trimmed off. It's like, well, what do you do now? What are we supposed to think? With now, because we've already had this discussion, and there's discussions out there about comics going solely digital. Well, what's going to happen to the paper version of a comic book? Yeah. This doesn't look good for that, right? Right. I don't think overall DC is going to go away. Do I think DC is going to get sold? I do think they're going to find a new home.
I think, and we kind of have to look at the tea leaves to make that determination. But right now, AT&T doesn't seem to be showing much interest, if any, in DC or comics rather. Side of DC, which is weird to say, the comics side of DC, but it is what it is, and the 21st century. The only player, science forbid that Disney were to make an offer on them. Like, that would be disastrous. Yeah, for the industry to have DC and Marvel under one roof. That would just be the death blow. Mm-hmm. I don't want to think about that, and I don't think realistically that's going to happen. No. The only other player in the game, and Cody brought this up when we were talking about all this, is Amazon. Yeah. And it's not like they don't have money.
Jeff Bezos has a couple bucks. He can go to the ATM and withdraw a few.
So, and that stuff that's speculative. We want to make sure that we be responsible and put it out there. That's pure speculation. Right. As to what might happen. But I think if you go back in time with your Wayback Machine a little bit and look at Dan Didio's exit, it starts to make more sense. Because it was extremely sudden after 18 years at DC. There wasn't a lot of detail that went into it. He had his NDAs that he couldn't disclose a ton of stuff. Sure. And I read a pretty decent interview with him in terms of length and content and depth. And you could really be boiled down to the writing was on the wall. Yeah. Well, what writing? We're thinking at the time. And now we're starting to see what that writing was. So, Jim Lee's still there. He's still CCO. Yep. And I think he in the interview he did today, he kind of went into his duties are going to change and look a little different. Okay, whatever, reorg. But on top of the editor-in-chief, Bob Harris, getting fired, Senior VP of Publishing Strategy and Support Services, Hank Canals, VP of Marketing and Creative Services, Jonah Weiland, VP Global Publishing Initiatives and Digital Strategy, Bobby Chase, which those are just mouthful titles. Brian Cunningham, senior story editor, and executive editor Mark Doyle, which was one of the more surprising ones because he saw the very successful rollout of the Black Label last year.
Right. That's the one that really surprised me.
Yeah, definitely.
All that Black Label stuff was huge.
It's selling like hotcakes.
Yeah,
sure. And oddly, the hotcakes industry is not so hot, but I digress. About a third of DC's total editorial ranks are being laid off.
Yep.
Let's see. Now, that brings us to DC Universe streaming service. I mean, for all intents and purposes, that thing is dead at this point. They haven't they haven't called time of death, but it's imminent. All of the original content is going to move over to HBO Max, which anyone with two brain cells to rub together could foresee that was probably going to happen because HBO Max is getting the living crap pimped out of it out there. Golly, I mean, it's just like so much to absorb.
Yeah,
we touched on DC Direct.
Yeah.
Now, and then we have news coming today that one of the bigger rounds of cancellations I've ever seen at the big two to hit at once was announced. So you've got Teen Titans, Young Justice, Hawkman, Suicide Squad, which surprised me,
John Constantine,
Hellblazer, all ending in November. Then you've got Aquaman probably is ending, but they didn't actually confirm that. Kelly Sue DeConnick said that November's number 65 is her last issue, and no successive writer has been chosen yet. Which that sounds like code for the book is canceled, but they don't want to admit it yet. And then you've also got Metal Men and the Batman's Grave both coming to their planned ends in November. Stack that on top of Batman and the Outsiders ending next month, the last issue of Harley Quinn coming out next week. Sorry, Nick.
Happy anniversary, Nick, by the way.
Your favorite book is comic. It's gone. It's just canceled. So things just like on the publishing side look super grim. And Jim Lee put this weird spin on it today, and it was wholly unconvincing. And it was it kind of sounded like it could be like, who said this, Jim Lee or Donald Trump? And
I was wondering if you were going to bring that up.
And it just didn't bode well. It doesn't seem like DC's going to end publishing comics.
No, I don't think, and to not go on that one really quick, with Hawkman and Suicide Squad, both Bruno Redondo and Tom Taylor did say that the books weren't, and this is just on their Twitter feed, so take it for what it's worth because it is in the Twitterverse, that they're not canceled, they're just stopping the book. So whether it's a potato type deal, you can take it, take it for what it's worth. I know Brian Hill did mention a few weeks ago in his feed when Batman and the Outsiders was announced that they were going to stop production on the book, that it was always meant to be a limited run. So either way, whatever you want to use. But
if you read the story, I mean, it obviously did have a planned ending.
Yeah.
But why weren't you planning beyond that? I mean, that's just me as a reader, but
and to go into the cryptic, if you will, it felt cryptic. Interview with Jim Lee. I mean, it was just there was some moments in this interview that I'm kind of breezing through right now to maybe like pull some stuff out that I don't have in my notes. It's just a lot of word salad, and it really, you can play a game. Who said it? Jim Lee or Donald Trump, and not to get into that because that'll be another Comic Watchers Present show. Excuse me. But
Comic Watchers presents Nerd Rage 2020.
But, you know, and then towards the end, you have this really odd question that doesn't fit. Are you still the publisher at DC? Yes. And then the next question goes under, and you're kind of like, where, like, why would you?
The feeling reading that Jim Lee interview that he was very much coached on what to say and what not to say.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's no way he
rolled out on cue. Oh, absolutely, he was rolled out on cue, and I'm not saying that to be mean-spirited or nothing, but
no, that's
this is one of those things where he may have the role of overseeing, content for DC now, and he could still be the publisher for DC now. By the way, Jim, if you ever want to come on the show, let's do this. Eric and Jim can, vouch for us. We're swell guys. But
darn tootin'.
Yeah, darn tootin'. You need to watch your mouth there.
I know.
But no, it was just one of those things where it felt rehearsed. It felt like this is what you're going to say. And it was kind of like, I don't know. It didn't feel authentic. No. It had a very doom and gloom. When you got done reading, like I'm reading it now and just kind of scrolling through on the side screen here, but I'm kind of just looking at it and going like, God, this is really depressing. This is like the third time I've went through this interview, and this is really depressing stuff. And it just, I hope, and there was, I'm trying to find where he touched on where they're still going to produce the comics, but they're going to, where he talks about digital and stuff like that. And he's talking about 3 Jokers. And I hope for Jason Fabok's sake, release the comic before whatever you do,
right?
Release 3 Jokers and let Jason Fabok have his moment in the sun, please. Finally,
for the love of God,
release.
They have announced at least one new comic, and that's John Ridley's The Other History of the DC Universe, which was supposed to come out last year, got shelved for mysterious reasons. It is definitely launching in November, and then he's also announced some kind of Batman comic that's coming out sometime next year.
From Ridley?
From him. Huh?
From Ridley?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, here you go. There would be a Batman, John Ridley.
Yeah, it's mentioned in that Jim Lee interview.
Yeah, it's going to be a mini series. And this is the part that kind of struck me. And Jim Lee said it'll have a huge impact on the rest of the line. Like, now is not the time to mess with your timelines of your characters.
No.
And now is not the time. And I think we touched on this either in the last episode of the show, or maybe the episode before last, where we were talking about the big two and their, I don't want to say maybe inability is the word, but to have that, just getting back to storytelling and not worrying about timeline mentioning or having this character jump in this multiverse or whatever. This is that time. Like, this is that time where you have Detective Comics and then you have Batman Comics. Leave it at that for now. Establish that creative team. Establish those stories. Rebuild that brand, because in a sense, who knows what's going to happen with DC? And I'm not trying to doom and gloom. I'm not going to go into what the other group of people are saying. I'm not going to say what their name is on the show. But at the same time, what you don't want is some CEO business guy coming into your office telling you how to run your comic business. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Because pretty soon, Dad's going to come into your bedroom and he's going to start ripping all of your Metallica posters off the wall. You know what I'm saying? And once he starts doing that, and now you're listening to, REO Speedwagon and Air Supply, and pretty soon you're not producing any comics or listening to sweet metal music anymore. You're listening to Air Supply. Who wants to listen to Air Supply?
Dude, you have an Asia poster.
You framed an Asia poster. Next week on Comic Watchers, we do movie analogies.
That's right. Next week, can you guess the 16-year-old pop culture reference that we're making?
Awesome. But
Yeah.
and that's what I took from this article is like, you know, you sit here and like, oh, this is going to have huge effects on the line. Like, no, this is where you establish your Aquaman stories, your Wonder Woman stories, your Superman stories. You don't
potatoes.
Right. You stop the Lois Lane books. You stop the Jimmy Olsen books. I get it. People love them.
Well, they were only 12-issue maxi series anyway.
Sure. But you get back to the meat and potatoes and you start rebuilding that strong DC brand. And because the thing is, I mean, what happens if they're on the nosedive and AT&T decides to go, you know what, Jeff Bezos, you know, you gave us a pretty rad amount of money for them, take it. And now you got another business eye going, well, wait a second, I don't care about your stupid books. I can sell mug shirts and dongs and all this other cool stuff. Why do I need comic books about Aquaman?
The bat dong.
The bat dong, exactly, right? You can throw it up against Robin. But, you know, that's what scares me, I think, is just this, reading this article and just scrolling through it, there's just a lot of unknowns. And right now, it is unknown, you know?
Yeah, that's an important point.
Right. And what doesn't help that unknown, is that we live in an age of social media. So we live and die by Facebook. We live and die by Twitter. Again. So we're taking it for face value, you know. So we see something on Twitter or Facebook and we're just sharing it. And pretty soon, you know, it's like that game you played in school where you whisper something in someone's ear. And then by the time it gets down, right, then when it gets down to the last person, you're going, who wants a scrambled egg sandwich? Who's talking about scrambled egg sandwiches? You know, and that's what kind of scares me. It's like that unknown. Sure, they're going to cancel books. Books were meant.
It definitely happens.
Sure, but I just think that unknown, and I think another thing that bugs me, and once again, this just, you know, kind of lays to the social media, is the fact that we're missing the human element to these 20% layoffs. That these are still humans with families.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I don't care if the editor drove home in his Maserati after the layoff. Like, he or she still had to text or call home and say, I got laid off, or we have to find another job. Right. Whatever. It doesn't matter your income stability. Like, I've rode that layoff train before, and it sucks. I mean, it really sucks. But and I think that's another thing that bugs me, because you have the unknown, and then you have the people on social media that are just kind of like pouncing. It's like tigers on raw meat. Like, these are still people, and I don't care what side of the road you tread on. Like, these, you know, they still had to go home and face the music and stuff like that. And these people are still looking for jobs. And I'm sure IDW, Boom, Scout, whoever is going to call these editors and be like, hey, come work for us. And that's fine. Exactly. But they're still
shit.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, if I was IDW or Boom or Scout or something like that, I'm on the phone going, listen, we're down here on 35th Street. Keep going. Free parking in their company garage, and you can come in.
Well, I mean,
you know,
AWA scored Axel Alonso.
Absolutely.
You know, perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect example.
Yep.
Former editor-in-chief.
Yeah.
Former editor of Vertigo.
Yeah.
Lead editor of Vertigo, whatever his title was. The head honcho.
He was the lead editor.
Ahoy has Stuart Moore, former Vertigo editor and Vertigo and Marvel editor. I mean, there's jobs to be had.
Well,
and I mean, I appreciate the fact that you touched on that human element, because that is something that does get lost in all of the, oh my God, what is going to happen to our comical books?
Right.
What about people's jobs? That's totally legit, and I appreciate you bringing that up, because it's something that we should all think about.
Yeah, because what about that editor who's not driving that fancy car that may have to take an Uber home or something like that? And I mean,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Or the assistant editor that still lives at home with his mom and dad. I don't think assistant editors get paid much.
Right? Like, Mom,
I do the grunt work.
Mom, I need the Wi-Fi password.
Exactly.
But yeah.
So things, I mean, like, to be clear and to reiterate what Mike was saying, though, there's a ton of unknowns.
Yep.
It's scary right now because of A, everything that went down, and B, the sheer number of unknowns. Okay. Yep. It just is what it is. DC Comics aren't going anywhere. DC Comics is going to look very, very different 6 months, a year from now.
Yep.
It is. I believe sometime after New Year's, we're going to be having a very different conversation about a bunch of new books DC's maybe putting out. I don't know if necessarily it was needed, but I don't have the sales numbers in front of me. So, and I'm also not, a soulless corporate suit at AT&T. So, there's that. But, Mike, any last thoughts on this slowly unfurling debacle?
I think it's just, I mean, if I would say this as fans, as a fan, if you think you are scared right now for your favorite book or whatever, and we're gonna touch back on the human element. Imagine what Jim Lee's feeling. I mean, obviously he's taken care of. Fine, economically, he's fine with whatever he does.
Jim Lee never had to work another day in his life. He will be fine.
Exactly. But we're going to touch on the human element because, I mean, regardless, he has a different role. He was told he was going to assume a different role. So there's still a conversation he has to have at the dinner table. So imagine what, like I said, the layoffs and stuff like that. So if, if you're bummed out, like, Aquaman isn't going to be on the shelf. Imagine.
Aquaman and cancellation kind of go hand in hand, but I'm actually just sad that Kelly Sue DeConnick's run is ending. It's been so damn good.
Yeah, and like I said, like you said, all we've talked about right now is speculation. The stuff I quoted was right off the interview, the article. I had it pulled up. So it's all speculation right now. Just everyone breathe. Everyone grab your favorite DC book, read it, and just wait, and stop sharing stuff on social media that's non-researched and just frantic house on fire stuff.
Yes.
That's
irresponsible.
Yeah. Definitely do research at this time because if you're not going to do research and if you're not going to take the time to really dig into what the real news is of the situation, then you're only kind of adding to the house is burning. The front yard may be on fire, but the fire is definitely not to the front porch yet.
Right. Yeah, that's a good analogy. So with that, let's talk about happier things. I know. This week saw a big release from Boom Studios, courtesy Tom Taylor, Danielle Di Nicciolo, and Walter Beamonte. I'm talking, of course, about 7 Secrets, #1.
Good stuff.
Big launch. First printing sold out. Biggest launch ever for Boom.
Yeah.
Tons of hype. Every now and again, every few months, it seems like some new indie book comes out and somebody or another gets it in their head that this is the next saga. And gotta ask, Mike, is it worth that hype? Is it worth that level of praise?
I think it is.
It's the first issue.
Yeah.
So
I think, is it worth saga praise? I am going to not buy the ticket for that train ride just yet.
TBD.
But is it worth the price of admission? Hell yes, it is.
Yes.
Now, I will go on to say, even if now it helps that Tom Taylor's name is on the book, that Tom Taylor wrote the book, obviously, right?
Absolutely. At
But
this point in his career, the man can do no wrong.
Right, because right now he has the hot pen in the industry, and this dude Tom Taylor could write a book about Charlie Brown and the Great Pumpkin, and I'm gonna buy it because I'm a huge Peanuts fan regardless, but because
Did you say a huge penis fan?
Peanuts, and by the way, this is a family show.
You slurred a little bit. I just wanted to clarify, not that there's anything wrong with that, obviously. We are allies on this show, but I just want to clarify what I heard and maybe inform your wife on the DL.
She listens to this show, sir.
Be like, hey, Nicole, that beard works on multiple levels. It's an analogy beard and a physical beard.
Well, yeah. Somewhere Charles Schultz right now is rolling over right now.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, so 7 Secrets.
So apparently Nick is the adult version of the show because we can't be trusted here. So 7 Secrets. No, this is good because it kind of reminds me of something of like Mission Impossible meets National Treasure with a little bit of romance involved with it, but not enough to be like a drama, and the thing I loved about this book as a whole is everything fits. Like you can really tell from the writing to the art to the ink to the lettering, it's like a puzzle. Everything has its part and it just rolls with it, and you almost feel like I got a sensation of like I could really watch this on like Toonami in the early 2000s on Adult Swim.
Okay.
Right. Like I as I'm reading this, and I read it the first time, I got home from the LCS and read. I'm like, God, this is really like, what does this remind me of? And it wasn't until about the second read through I was going, like, really, like I could see this on Adult Swim, and which is a great thing, obviously, but it was one of those things where it didn't build up too slow. It didn't.
Oh no, it gets down to business.
Right. It had a great speed to it, to where it was like, oh, and even a couple times where you're like, wait, who's narrating? Oh, Casper, the son is narrating. Oh, wait, okay, yeah. So let me go back. And so then when like, I hope I'm pronouncing the name right, Tahana, when she, during the trial with Sigurd and Eva, and you're kind of like, oh, she's helping him. Got it. But wait a second. Is she really helping him? Mm-hmm. And then you go back to the front part of the book and where he's talking about like past secrets, future secrets, and you're seeing tanks and it looks like a modern war. And then you're seeing Templars, and then like the Templar has the sword going through his body. And so you're kind of like going like, oh, wait a second. Is this Lost? Are we time traveling? Like, what are we doing here? But it was like, and then when you got to the end, you were like, okay, wait. So who is Amon? I don't want to give away too much, but like, is Amon part of the 7? And maybe like they're kind of like imploding on each other and stuff like that.
Could be.
Right. And so you really I found myself going back and almost dissecting the art and the words and kind of trying to connect things and going, okay, well, Danielle is doing this on this page. So Thomas talking about this. And I'm like, But then you get into the lettering aspect of it. And I love the fact that I thought I had the letterer on my notes, which I don't. So I apologize. Who do you have it really quick?
Ed Dukeshire.
Thank you.
He's a staple over there at Boom.
Yeah. And so, like, when especially the part where, like, they were pointing to the belly when Eva was pregnant with Casper and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And he had such a great distinction of, okay, Casper, like, you really felt Casper wanted you to focus on this part. And then Casper wanted you to focus on this part. And then when Amon and Sigurd had their thing going on, I don't want to, obviously I don't want to spoil that stuff, but anyway, so Amon and Sigurd had their thing going on, and God, the lettering and just the word boxes were so well placed and well, like, advertised, I guess you could say. You just kind of, it was almost animated. Like you went back and you were like you felt something, you know? And it was almost like you waited for that page to kind of explode. You know what I'm saying? And I felt like issue 2, wherever issue 2 picks up at, I think I'm waiting for some type of explosive energy. You know,
I don't think you'll be waiting long once number 2 comes out.
No. I think once 2 comes out, I think it's just going to be just straightforward, in your face. Now, I do feel that this series, is going to be something that people are going to sleep on until about issue 3, and then all that energy from this series is going to be like, oh, wait a second, where was I the past couple of months? Oh, well, you weren't with the billion other people that were already reading the 7 Secrets. This is something, I think this is, like I said, I don't know if it's and not many things are saga on that level, but I think we're in the neighborhood. I think we're looking at some real estate with this series.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, pick it up. Definitely pick it. Even if you're on that second print, don't miss out on this. I mean, I don't think it's going to shatter records. I don't think it's going to break records.
Well, it already broke records for Boom.
True, but I just don't sleep on it, because it's really good. It really, really is.
Definitely. I've spoken before. I'm a huge sucker for world building.
Yeah.
Like, if you can give me a first issue or 2 that just constructs a unique world with its own rules and dynamics, and just uniqueness, you're almost certainly going to suck me right in.
Yeah.
And that's what 7 Secrets does from the jump, except it does it in a way that isn't exposition laden. Like, you get introduced to this world via the actions that are going on. I mean, and don't get me wrong, this is predominantly an all action issue.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely it is.
I mean, we've got some flashback that sets the stage and gives us some not necessarily even exposition, but dialogue exchanges that help us understand the world that we're talking about here. And to clarify, because I failed as a host to do so when we first started talking about the book, the idea behind 7 Secrets is that our world, has 7 major secrets to its entire history, that any one of which, if it were revealed, would upset the world order in every way, shape, or form. Like, for example, it's hinted at in this first issue that what really happened to Atlantis is one of the secrets. Okay.
Yeah.
We're talking about things of that scale and that scope and historic magnitude. So each secret is carried basically in a briefcase and is protected by a single guardian who that's their life, is to protect this secret until they fall in battle or something, and the next guardian is chosen. So there's a whole secret order built around this, and 2 of these people 15 years ago fell in love, broke the rules, had a baby. That baby is Casper, who Mike mentioned, and Casper's narrating the story we don't, other than him being a tiny baby in a couple panels, we don't see Casper in the present times. So I think number 2 is going to dive into that a little bit, and who Casper is and what his place is now that the world is established. But the way that Tom Taylor constructs this world, like, he's not exposition dumping anything. The pacing is shockingly brisk, which is kind of a Tom Taylor hallmark. He loves brisk pacing, punctuated with very strong emotional beats, and that's what this does. But it kind of takes what he's known for, polishes it, takes it to the nth degree. The art, pencils by Danielle Di Niccuolo, and phenomenal coloring by Walter Bayamonte, and with an assist from Katia Ranali, is awesome.
Yes.
I mean, I'm just kind of at a lack of words, but I think when you mentioned Toonami, that worked perfectly, because it almost looks like an anime.
Yeah.
But not. Like, it's got those same coloring qualities that you see in your higher quality, higher production value animes, but without like the big eyes and the goofy spiky hair and oversized hand, whatever. Pick your stereotype, okay, of what you think is an
the
anime.
super big swords and stuff
Yeah. And it like none of that is there. So it's almost like a restrained anime, I guess, would be a good way to describe it.
Fair enough.
Or anime with Western touch. I don't know. Just throwing words out there to kind of convey this. But man, the art was amazing. I loved it. I loved this comic. Excuse me. God, Derb's gonna have to edit that yawn out.
Right.
I hope you were paying attention to the time hack there. 51. 115. But fantastic comic. If you can find a copy of Seven Secrets, do yourself a favor, grab this book. It's gonna be big. It's already big. So don't be the guy that's not getting into Seven Secrets until the first trade is released, and you're paying $50 to $75 for issue 1.
Right, or the cool guy that can't like the popular comic at the time, and I'm not buying it. Okay, fine, don't buy it then.
Well, don't buy it, but
I don't. Yeah, miss out on a great book, because that's what this is. I mean, this is, and I will say, like, this type of story is in my wheelhouse anyway. So I probably would have bought it if whoever was writing it, because it just, the story itself is interesting. But it does help that Tom Taylor, like I said earlier, has that hot pen, and this is the example. I mean, like you said, the pacing it's marvelous, and it's that infectious book that you keep going through, and you just read it multiple times. Just came out, and I probably read it like 4 times already, and it's definitely going to have that like little marker, on where it's at in your long box, your short box. Here it is, because this is what I want to read yet again for the billionth time, because it's just that good of a story. It's just that good of a story.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is that series that I think that I would buy in trade, because like in some trades they like add like drawings and stuff and all that good stuff. So you're like, hey,
sketches.
It's same thing. The same thing with Count Crowley and that magnificent book. The trade came out, had different. God bless David Dasmalchian. But you produce the trade with different pages, and you're going, oh, I have the series, or at least the issues that are covering this trade, but this trade is getting me different pages. It's giving me
more.
Yeah, so this is what you buy, and I mean, right now, it's just, I don't want to say it's the perfect book, but it's a damn near perfect book. It's just really good.
It's about a 9.9 out of 10 if ever there was one.
No, absolutely. Buy this book.
I mean, that's no hyperbole.
No, everything works. It's like that perfect jigsaw puzzle.
Absolutely.
Everything fits.
Buy this book, 7 Secrets, courtesy Boom Studios. Tom Taylor, Danielle Niccuolo, and Walter Bayamonte. So with that, bam. We're running a little long. I think that's okay. Mike, what are you looking forward to this week? What have you been reading?
Looking forward to, one, obviously, me and you, we kind of go back and forth in this, but Dragon 251 is coming out. If you haven't seen the cover to this, it's. I mean, obviously, you can go to previews, you can see the cover. If you follow Eric Larson on Twitter, you've seen the cover. It's marvelous, obviously, and probably the biggest book that I'm getting little chill bumps just getting ready to say the word, but Maestro.
Oh, is that this week? I thought it was in 2 weeks.
According to previews in Marvel, unless I read it wrong, Maestro is this.
Hey, I'll freaking take it. Peter David, Hulk. I'm there.
Ooh, I can't wait. Nothing else really matters other than the Maestro and the Dragon 251. Man. As far as what I've been reading, I don't know if I've hit on Dead Body Road, Bad Blood.
You haven't. I've been very curious about it though.
This is really good. This is the second, I guess, version of Dead Body Road. That
second volume.
Yeah. So this is Dead Body Road, Bad Blood, which is right now we are in issue 2, which I could say the main star would be, her name is Bree Hale, and my last review, the review I did for 2, this is issue 2 by the way, where I kind of compared her to if Sarah Connor worked at the Double Deuce. And obviously, if you watch Roadhouse, right, the Double Deuce, right?
Yes.
That analogy made it.
I did not see that reference coming. Again, come back next week for ancient movie reference bingo with Mike and Matt.
Oh, I got a billion of them. So, but really, what happened is the whole tale is her brother gets into odds with the local crime boss, right?
Okay.
And so her brother has a hit on local crime boss has a hit on her brother. So she has a past. She's a former Marine, but she also, before she went into the military, she has a life of maybe like some crime, some vigilante justice, if you will. Ooh. So that old past is coming through, and it's really good. Like this, reads, the whole thing feels like a Quentin Tarantino movie that made into a comic, from the art, from the storyline. It's just gritty stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good. Like I said, it's so you got Justin Jordan, Benjamin Tiasma, and Matt Lopez on art and inks, and once again it's not, and I don't mean this in a bad way, it's obviously it's not as together as like Seven Secrets, but it just works. Like,
cool.
From Jordan's words, really, really good. Highly recommended. It's action. It's bloody. A lot of bad words in there too. So if you like 4-letter words in your comics, maybe check that out.
The Tarantino movie made into a comic,
right? And as far as like super brand new, talk about Big Girls 1. This is another one that from Jason Howard that really took me by surprise. Read the synopsis. I was like, you know what? I'm going to pick it up. I'm an Image fan. Jason Howard's pretty good. He did Trees, which never got finished. So if you want to finish Trees, if you want to come on the show and talk about finishing Trees, that's fine. But no, this is really good because it's, I can't remember the actual word, but say like, without getting into too much, and I don't want to say that kind of word, but say you have say men are bad overall, right?
No.
Yeah. Maybe misogyny plays into this role in the book, but gigantic women, if you will, kind of survey the world, right? And men that are, and I'm really not trying to give too much away, but men that are birthed tend to have a gene that turns them into like demons type of just grotesque things. And it's really weird, but it works. And the end is like super shocking that I didn't expect. And there is a panel that kind of like, wow, they put that in there. But overall, the story works because it's kind of like the city is kind of roped in. There's like a fence around the city, and it's really hard without giving too much spoilers away.
Okay. So Attack of the 50-Foot Woman as an analogy for men behaving badly.
Yeah, but the
I can be down with that.
Woman has a conscience, and so she's kind of like, I don't want to do this anymore. But the antagonist is kind of like an ass cop type of deal, and so, but it does work, and there is some panels. I will say there is some panels in there that I would put a warning on that some people.
So this is definitely not one for the kiddies.
No, absolutely not. Like there are some panels that, had. I got you. All right. So Big Girls is definitely
Big
worth
Girls from Image. Check that one out. So I have been reading a lot of Captain America. Man, holy cow. I stocked up and got the classic Roger Stern, John Byrne run from the early 80s.
Very cool.
Called a classic for a reason. You got Cap for President. You got Cap versus Dragon Man. You got in Machine Smith. It's got the classic story where Cap has to behead Baron Blood. Just, you know what? You want to talk about meat and potatoes superhero comics? You can do no wrong. Fantastic stuff. I'm just enjoying the hell out of these back issues right now. Now, on more recent stuff, I decided to check out Undone by Blood from Aftershock Comics. Yes, listen, I wound up getting the second issue because I couldn't find the first. It's by Zach Thompson and Lonnie Nadler. It is spectacular. So the idea is utilizing kind of Old West mythology and tropes that still pervade our society today, and playing them against modern day scenarios where thematically they bump up against one another. But it's not just that, because it will also tell an original metatextualized Western story that also dovetails with the modern story. And it's just so unique. And I think issue 5 just came out this week. I believe the 6-issue miniseries to start with. Volume 2 kicks off next year. It was just announced, but do not sleep on this comic because it is freaking awesome. As for what I'm looking forward to next week, we have got issue number 4 of Wonder Woman Dead Earth coming from DC Black Label, courtesy Daniel Warren Johnson. I know. I was shocked too, because he told us when he was on the show it was coming out in October. And lo and behold, I was cruising DC's website yesterday, and they've got it marked for release next week. So if I'm wrong, shame on DC.
That just means we have to have Daniel Warren Johnson on the show again.
I know. Twist my arm.
Yeah, right.
So
him and his damn good art and books.
Indeed. He makes good comics.
Yeah, he does. Absolutely.
And we like talking about good comics. We like talking about bad comics. We like talking about unknown comics. And it is, Mike, I know Nick's not here, but it is my pleasure to talk comics with you and him every week. And, just one of the absolute highlights of the week for me. Mm-hmm. And this was kind of a downer episode, but I felt like we needed to talk about this stuff that's happening at DC. It's important and it's relevant. Yeah. But next week we'll be back for more. So until then, read comics, support your local comic shop, support creators. There's a lot of good Kickstarters out there too.
Oh, yes.
Until then, this is Mike. I'm Matt. This has been the Comic Watcher Show, episode 94. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next time.